In this episode, the Feast with a Beast fundraising event at an Idaho zoo turns into exactly that, as one of the tigers escapes and jumps onto one of the zoo's patrons. And trying to save the woman, a police officer fires his gun at the animal. But when the woman lets out a cry, he realizes he has hit her instead of the tiger. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying tiger attack on Jan Gold. Welcome to Final Affliction. Zoo Boise in Idaho is home to an array of animals from around the world. Visitors can visit the zoo and view lions, penguins, giraffes, wild dogs, and Siberian tigers. These tigers are the largest of the big cats, and in the wild are confined to the southeast of Russia and small areas in China and North Korea. With so few left in the wild, each and every individual, captive or wild, is important for the species. Zoo Boise was always popular for those visiting Idaho, and when they introduced two Amur tigers named Taiga and Tundra, their visitor numbers shot up by 25%. The tigers were brothers who came from Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago in 1999. They were popular exhibits at the wildlife park, but on Friday, August 16, 2000, their fate remained uncertain. The zoo was holding a fundraising event. Keeping a zoo going requires significant funds, and charity events are often a valuable source of money and potential investment. Aptly named the Feast with the Beast, the event drew in donations from far and wide. One visitor to the event was 41-year-old Jan Gold. After eating at the special sit-down meal, there was a chance to see some of the animals, and so some of the guests gathered by the doors to be taken on a brief tour. Just before 9 p.m., Jan Gold joined a small group of people for a behind-the-scenes tour of the tiger enclosure. Whilst a member of staff explained the importance of these incredible animals and the conservation efforts to save the few hundred left in the wild, somebody left a gate unlocked. It was a mistake that would change the course of the evening. A zookeeper enticed the two tigers closer to the indoor section of their enclosure. Fresh meat was used to lure the animals from their grassy outdoor area into their cages. From there, they could be observed up close. But one of the tigers had other ideas. It had seen the group of tourists inside the tiger house. It had locked its eyes onto the enthusiastic visitors and sniffed the air. As it followed the meat trail towards Jan and the others, it came across an unlocked gate. The latch hadn't been securely fastened. It nudged it with its nose. The gate swung open. Nobody noticed as the 600-pound, 270-kilogram cat stepped through onto the other side of the fencing. Its huge paws, 4 inches, 10 centimeters across, padded towards the open door of the tiger house. The largest Siberian tigers can grow to 3.7 meters or 12 feet long, including a 1 meter, 3-foot tail. They are predators that usually stalk their prey before pouncing on them. Prey species include small mammals like rabbits and hares, as well as deer, wild boar, and even some bears. They are powerful and strong, pouncing on their prey and using their muscular forelimbs to hold on to an animal before sinking their teeth into the neck. The tigers stepped inside the tiger house. Those inside were unsuspecting and turned at the last second, coming face to face with the fearsome cat. Immediately, it pounced at the first person it saw, Jan Gold. She yelled out. Everybody else screamed as they saw the enormous tiger bring her down. They ran out of the tiger house in a blind panic, leaving Jan fighting for her life. The tiger's sharp claws dug into Jan's back, and she crumpled to the ground under its weight. Standing over her, the tiger opened its jaws and closed them around her head. Zoo manager David Wayne shouted at the animal, trying desperately to distract it, trying to get it off the woman, but the tiger had latched on and wasn't letting go. Amidst the laughter and music of the busy Feast with a Beast party, Police Sergeant Rich Schnebley heard something else. He strained his ears and looked towards the doors. Over the loud chatter of the charity event, he could hear blood-curdling screams. He began making his way through the crowd, pushing people aside as the screams grew louder. He had been attending the event on behalf of the policing community, but suddenly jumped into action when he heard the desperate cries. He made his way to the exit doors, following the sound of the calls for help. He didn't know what he would find, but he had his sidearm to hand and ran towards the tiger exhibit. Inside the tiger house, he found Jan underneath the enormous tiger. He immediately reached for his holstered weapon and raised it in front of him. But another police officer had already drawn his weapon. In the commotion, it was impossible to make a clean shot. It was too dangerous to fire a round into the tiger as it tussled with Jan's body. There was a chance the bullet could hit her. Instead, the other police officer aimed the gun just above the tiger's head. He squeezed the trigger, firing 2 rounds from his .45 caliber pistol. Jan screamed and writhed around on the floor. One of the rounds had appeared to hit her, but the loud crack of the gunshots had the desired effect on the escaped animal. Taiga immediately jumped backwards and headed for his cage. Zoo manager David Wayne and Rich Schnebley ran towards Jan, but as they did so, Taiga spotted them out of the corner of his eye. He turned his head just as he was about to step inside his cage. He did a U-turn. His instincts were strong. He wasn't finished yet. He leapt back towards Jan and the 2 men who were just feet from where she lay. They stepped back when they saw the tiger coming towards them. Taiga's enormous frame towered above Jan once more. Without hesitating, the police officer fired another shot, and the tiger ran back to his cage. This time, David and Rich rushed at the cage door. They pushed it hard and secured the lock. Luckily, this time, they were quick enough to close the gate behind him, and he was safely secured. The 2 men knelt down beside Jan. She was badly mauled on the back of her neck and her head, but she was bleeding from the gunshot wound in her thigh as well. They administered first aid whilst waiting for the emergency service to arrive. Afterwards, the police department claimed that one of the bullets from the police officer's gun had ricocheted off the metal bars and struck her in the thigh. But upon examination of the gunshot wound, it seemed Jan had received a direct hit from the bullet. She was in a lot of pain and was rushed to St. Alphonsus Regional Medical Center. When she arrived, she was in a serious condition. She had a broken leg from the weight of the tiger and puncture wounds to her neck and back. She also had the gunshot wound. Doctors managed to stabilize her, and she went on to make a full recovery. Following the incident, the zoo manager was put on leave until they found the cause for the attack. As news of the incident spread, the zoo received hundreds of phone calls from worried members of the public begging for them not to destroy Taiga. He was a popular animal at the zoo, and such a rare species whose role in education and conservation was hugely important. It was decided that Taiga would be spared. It was human error that had led to the attack. Somebody had failed to close the gate properly, and Taiga was only acting on instinct. It was a human error that could have cost somebody their life, and that of a rare and endangered animal. 13 years later, Taiga was to meet his end. In the wild, tigers typically live 10 to 12 years, and in captivity, 12 to 18 years. At the age of 15, Taiga was suffering from renal failure and had large tumors along his spleen. He wasn't responding to veterinary treatment, and so it was with a heavy heart that the zoo staff decided it was best to put him to sleep. His brother, Tundra, died 3 years later at the age of 18. He had cancer of the liver and pancreas, but was considered old for a tiger. Over their years at the zoo, the brothers had become part of the zoo family. They had brought in a huge number of guests and had helped raise awareness of this endangered species. In 2007, the IUCN upgraded the Siberian tiger's status from critically endangered to endangered. In the 1940s, the Siberian tiger was on the brink of extinction, with just 50 individuals left in the wild. Russia was the first to ban tiger hunting and restricted the hunting of its primary prey, too. Since then, their numbers have slowly crept upwards. With the hard-working conservation teams fighting to keep Siberian tigers alive, maybe there's hope for the species yet.